go pack it, ticket for pay. And no money there. When I tell me pick this tree. What a beautiful day. Good morning. What a beautiful day. Good morning. With the troubles away. Good morning.
And welcome back to, what is today? June 10th edition
July.
of July.
Yes.
It is not 8 o'clock yet. Right, July 10th edition of the Business Perspective. I'm Dan Elliott and
Marissa Longsworth.
And we are joined, as promised, by Mr. Mike Singh, who I've been instructed to say is responsible for improving government efficiencies using technologies.
Good description.
Good description.
Thank you.
Advisor.
Yes. I work out of the Office of the Prime Minister, and technology and digital transformation is where I'm focusing my time to try to bring efficiency to government.
Excellent. All right. So I guess one of the things that we definitely want to talk about, I mean, I think in general everybody understands what technology is supposed to do. It's supposed to make you more efficient. You can move faster, cut costs where costs can be cut. Things like that. So, elaborate for us. Why are we here now, and why is it important for us to be having a conversation about e-governance in the first place?
Okay. Well, Dion. First of all, good morning. Good morning, listeners. Good morning, Marissa. Thanks for having me today. Go back a little bit. I've been in government for about 10 years. I was just commenting that I used to have hair and it used to be dark. So
government isn't stressful. Come on.
So 10 years later, when I came back in after my last stint with trade, I thought that the focus really should be on looking at government be more efficient and how we could release some of the bottlenecks that slow down business, that slow down people's lives. The things that people complain the most about is not being able to get services when they need it and as efficiently as they want it. So I started looking at all the ministries in detail to see what's going on and why that's happening. And a lot of it has to do with the way processes have evolved and not evolved in many cases, where we've retained this paper-based government that's very manual, it's very personal, it's very one-on-one. Everything is dependent on somebody's action or somebody's mood. And that leads to many things. As you know, it leads to inefficiency, it leads to corruption, because everything is dependent on what one person says to another or does for another. So when we started looking, we realized that processes needed to be improved, technology needed to be brought in. Modern technology today is a lot less expensive than it used to be, and it does a lot of work focusing on process improvement. Every program that you use is based on a process that has been automated to make something better. So we thought that we would change the direction and start looking at how we could use technology to bring improvement in all these processes so that people could get their services achieved a lot quicker. So CITO, the Central Information Technology Office, which was traditionally housed in the Ministry of Finance as a support only for the public finance management systems, the things that we run government with, which is to pay bills, collect money. They have about 30 tech people that work there, well, administrative and tech. And I thought, you know what, if we could convert that unit into becoming an e-governance unit to come in and go through all the ministries and see how we could implement these efficiency measures by looking at processes first, looking at legislation, looking at the policies that underpin them, and see how we could take those processes and build technological solutions to be able to bring them all into one e-governance window, into a portal, so to speak, so that the citizen can have better service. Now, e-governance is not only what you see in front, it's what you see behind the scenes. So behind the scenes, behind the curtain, there's a whole lot of things that have to be done so government can work better with itself. There's a lot of disconnect between systems. For instance, our finance system does not connect with lands. It doesn't connect with all the revenue collections. So there's a lot of gaps between how government itself is connected. So one of the, I don't know if you have questions, but I mean, shall I just keep going?
I love guests that keep going because you're covering. Because one of the things I was going to ask about is the silo culture.
Right, exactly,
which is what you're already discussing.
But the silo culture works not just with the policy and the legislation, but it also works within the technological background. The back end of government that's supposed to connect is not connected. So one of the main things we're working on is how do we interconnect government with itself and then connect it with the citizen.
But this is a question that always comes to mind because we know that there needs to be interdepartmental or interministerial communications. But there's this culture, and correct me, is there a tradition or a culture that has existed where for some reason there has been some resistance at the people level? Of course.
And Dion, I mean, in our daily lives, we weren't as connected as we are today. And what has connected us is technology. We're on WhatsApp with groups of families. We're on Facebook with 300 people that we call friends. But we are connected.
That we call friends.
But we're connected. The point is that we're connected by technology.
Yeah.
So if we take that same principle and say, okay, if government is disconnected behind the curtain, then let's use technology to connect. So one of the things we did, and you might have heard a year ago, we launched this initiative with Microsoft, a memorandum of understanding that we crafted. And out of that memorandum, we actually acquired technology that is now connecting government in the back end. We acquired 3,500 licenses for Microsoft 365, which is an integrated platform. It's not what we remember as Office.
Okay.
This is a platform that connects people with email, with collaboration tools like SharePoint, with tools that allow us to share documents, to post items on virtual sites. And you would be amazed at how many officers are now actively using it. We're having more virtual meetings than we've ever had. You know, we're using Skype for Business.
Which cuts costs immediately.
Of course, there's a lot less drives to go places. I do way more Skype meetings than I do on-site meetings. I try not to drive to a meeting anymore.
Better use the time as well.
Of course. The idea that we're able to take a document, like for instance, we've been setting up some functionality for the Attorney General's ministry where the attorneys there do a lot of work together on documents. So we're setting up a SharePoint hub where these lawyers don't have to go to the office and stay till 9, 10 at night working, because they can work from their laptop, they can collaborate, they can post documents securely. And we're doing the same thing with the archives department. We just started a project where we're automating the filing system for government. Now, if you imagine the years and years and years of documents that are piled up in boxes where we're trying to find warehouses to store them, where each ministry has what's called a registry. And that registry's job is to take paper off every public officer's desk, put it in a file, put it in boxes, and send it to archives. Now, the archives fell under my portfolio under tourism when I first got into government. And oh my goodness, I cannot imagine. These people are working so hard to try to figure what to do with paper. And it just keeps mounting and piling to the point that secretaries are printing emails and putting them in files when it's already digitized. So why are we printing it and filing it?
It's just a
But
felt need.
Nobody changed the process and the policy. I'm only giving you one example. There's thousands of these examples throughout government where if we use technology and put it towards it. So in the case of archives, we have a consultant that we've engaged, and I've been spending quite a bit of time the last 2 weeks working at how we're going to get archives digitized so that moving forward, we have a policy on what we do with documents. How long do we keep it before we destroy it? Do we really need to file it? Do we really need to print it? So we're going to have a new policy on how we handle documents, and we're going to have a new protocol on how we can digitize them and put them on servers as opposed to putting them in boxes where government is paying rent, where we can't find documents, where documents get wet, they get destroyed, and our entire governance depends on these records. So that's a good example of digitization. And we're working in many, many different ways throughout government to connect government within itself. So the second thing we're doing beyond Microsoft 365, which are the tools, we're building a wide area network which is about 65 to 70% built. And that's a wired fiber optic network that connects all of government systems with themselves so that we can have the security that we need within government systems, because you can't have, if you have a standalone network, it's not as secure as one that is connected. We have certain protocols in place with not being able to, for instance, stick a USB device into a machine that could corrupt it. There's protocols in terms of recording what somebody does on a computer. You know, you look at what happened with our immigration system where records were falsified and slid into the system, and we, you know, we don't need to talk about the details on that, but really that was a system problem. That was a process problem. It was a people problem as well, because if people want to do mischief and the system has holes in it that allows them to do it, then they will do it. So by tightening our network to where we record every keystroke on every government computer, we record every piece of data.
It mitigates the corruption.
We make it
as well.
searchable, and we make it efficient for retrieval and for access. Then it's very difficult for somebody who wants to do something wrong to do it on a government system. So that all of a sudden firewalls our systems from corruption. So the wide area network is something we're working on. We're also working at trying to get most of our government servers moved into a secure location at our data center in Belmopan. What we found about this disconnect you talked about is that there's government servers that are being hosted in different ministries, and the security on them is less than we would want. You know, you don't really have a proper server room with air conditioning, with security, with secure access, with even the firewalls that protect those servers are not up to the standard that we would want them. So through generous donation by the Taiwanese government, we have a very lovely data center in Belmopan that is secure. It's got secure access. It's isolated from the public. It's got all the backups we need. It's got backup generators, UPSs, firewalls, and I will tell you, the guys that work there, you know, our security head, they are world class. So we're trying to bring all government's technology into a secure area, connected by the wide area network, so that all users become client users within government. So the different agencies of government and the different ministries are now being viewed as clients of the technology center, as opposed to themselves as standalone users, which causes that silo that you spoke about. So that interconnectivity, okay, so that's connecting within ourselves. That's ongoing. Then we want to connect to the public. So how are we going to do that? We need to digitize all the processes that government offers to, or the services that they offer to the public, right? So you apply for a passport. That's what we do with government. We apply. We fill out forms. We hand them to somebody. That person gives it to his supervisor, gives it to a technical officer, gives it to another person, finally might go to the minister, and it's all going from one desk to the next waiting for a signature. So, okay, so that's what we do in government. And we have mapped over 170 of those processes that are live, that people do every day throughout all the ministries. Same thing, fill out that form, goes through the pipeline, may or may not come back, or it may come back a year later.
Goes missing?
It goes missing, precisely. So that's a process, right? If you take that and instead, and you tell the citizen, you say, you know, Dion, you know, Marissa, just go on, you guys look at this. You guys both have computers. You don't have to get up from your desk. You could go on there, fill out exactly the same form that you have to go stand in line to do, submit it, and build a process in the back end so it digitally goes from one person to the next. Tracked everywhere that it goes. Fingerprints, I should say, digital fingerprints on it everywhere it goes. Secured at a server in Belmopan, so it's not going to a server that's unsecure.
Servers.
So there's a record of everything that you ask for, and we even take it one step further. We make it trackable by you, so that you could trace it and you can track it, so you can go online and see the process as to where it went.
Whose desk is sitting on.
Correct. That is what digitization is, taking all those processes, whatever it is, whether it's filing your taxes, whether it's applying for your birth certificate, whether it's getting your passport, take all those processes and digitize them and make them traceable, trackable, and make the people that are undertaking the job accountable, most importantly. Because if you're looking at them and there's a supervisor looking and there's a record of it going, then of course they have to be accountable to how long they take to provide you the service, how accurate the service is, how much you pay for that service, whether or not it is what you require, what you requested. So all those things are part of that interconnection and that connection between citizen and government, where government then becomes the service provider that is wide open, transparent, and you as a citizen become in control of that service that's being given to you. What we have today is that we have public officers at different levels that are in control that can lose a document, that can hold a document. No, let's not talk about lands department.
Actually, I've been intentional.
So-
I said, I want to put you up on the spot.
So when we start talking about processes, that's a good example of where a process flow and a process improvement has to be put in place.
Vital stats as
And,
well.
and the technology has to be there to support it. And I'll touch on natural resources for a second, because I mean they've been highlighted in the media recently. There's a technology solution that was paid for, that was implemented, called Landfolio,
Okay.
which was supposed to do many of these things, but it's only been half implemented. And it's been implemented where if the lands department is actually running a manual system and a digital system at the same time, because only a section of the country has been what's been called declared. Now, I won't get into details of lands because I don't work for lands. I just know that this
That's one of the
this
issues.
division of their processes has made it extremely inefficient for anybody to go in and get something done. So what needs to happen there is exactly what we're trying to do with all the other ministries, is to lead a transformation, to look at these individual processes, map them, find out where the gaps are, and then convert those to a digital system so that you, the citizen, can go on your machine and request a title. You should not have to stand in line to get a title.
I almost clapped just now.
Right, but I won't dwell only on that. I'm
Yeah.
talking about the overall big picture, right?
Yeah.
So we've looked at 170 something of these processes. So we're now working at developing a portal, which this prototype is already built, and that prototype of that portal is going to open up opportunities for us, and we've got quite a few applications that are already going to be put on the portal. For instance, there's a group of applications that we call Bell Apps, which is really exactly the same thing. It's filling out a form, digitizing it. So Bell Apps has already been completed, and that covers all the trade permits. You're familiar with it?
No, just like these guests, because I literally have here as my next question about bill-ups and Asikuda.
Yeah. So Bell Apps is an example.
Yeah.
Asikuda is a digital example.
Yes, custom.
We have another cluster that we're working on, which is a transport cluster that I hate the acronym. It's called BEMVRALS. It's Belize Motor Vehicle and Licensing System. And what this will do is this will take all the transport permits having to do with driver's license, car titles, ownership of cars.
Centralize it,
This is part of the
Yes.
National Transportation Master Plan.
Yes, it is.
Right.
So the Ministry of Transport will have this system where the municipalities will subscribe to it. So we're sort of still leaving the decentralized system where municipalities have some management over transport, but we're centralizing the technology. So they will become clients of that technology. So we have one database to work from. The police will have access to it. Customs will have access to
And
it.
you keep using the word clients because one of the things, what I've seen even in the e-governance, the policy, is that there is a divide or trying to shift from a bureaucratic culture to one that sees the users as clients.
Yes.
Where, whether it's from government to government or from private citizens or business to the government, that we perceive that the view is treat people as clients.
Yes, exactly.
And that should lead to a lot more efficiency, and the whole process should feel different.
Well, it's clients even within government.
Yes.
Where ministers become clients of the departments that provide internal services. So as an example, we just finished, we haven't launched it yet, but we just digitized within government the process of performance appraisals. You have no idea how paperwork heavy that was. And if you think about how much time a supervisor within government spends managing, we have 14,000 public officers. Imagine how much time it takes to manage that. And so that takes away from time that could be spent serving the public. So we've just digitized the process where the form that's filled out is now going to be digital. It's going to be filled out on a computer by the supervisor and the employee, admitted, so that it can then be filed away and processed without having all that paper. If you ever walk into the Ministry of the Public Service and you look at the mountains of paper, I get a headache just walking in. Like, we have to get rid of that and start doing things where it's all at the touch
So
of
are we going to go back? I mean, you mentioned digitization. Are we going to go back, I don't know how many years back, and try to take all those things and digitize, or is it mostly just moving forward?
That doesn't work. That doesn't work. You have to set a cutoff date.
Okay.
And then start moving forward, and then
So maybe
eventually
the
phase
so
out.
the last 5 years.
Yeah, it's it has to be a phase out process. There's no way you could just one fell swoop go back and digitize everything, and that's always the challenge in these efforts: is do you go back or do you go forward? It's easier to go forward.
Nice. All right. So one of the things that we're looking at here is we already mentioned the Bellap system and Asakuda, and everybody I've spoken, well, most people I've spoken to so far have indicated that that has been working. Those two has been, Bellaps is Belize licensing and application systems, where import licenses, different things, you can get them online. And people who use them are saying, okay, I don't have to be running up and down from one office to the other. Asikuda, the same thing. So it's already showing signs where it does improve the way how business is done. And one of the big things is cutting costs. Cutting costs for government. Now, I know we didn't want to...
Well, let me add one thing to that, though, Dion. One of the things that makes this timely for us to do what we're doing is the tools that are available today, technology. One of the big things that you hear a lot is there's new people that they call data scientists. And you have things called business intelligence, which is something that is now being built into just about every application software that comes out today. Now, what is that? I know you're a numbers man. The ability to be able to look at a dashboard to understand what's going on with your business is something that is now becoming very real. You look at it on Facebook. You could pull a dashboard of all your friends and
who's clicking what, who's liking what.
Exactly. So dashboards and business intelligence are becoming ubiquitous within
the whole industry
within government. So, I mean, within technology. So we are now able to implement that within all the systems in government to where we are now able to glean information to the point where at some point in time, even at the level of cabinet and the prime minister, they should be able to pull dashboards as to what's going on with government. How many people were given birth certificates? What are the demographics? How much money was collected today in taxes? Where it's being collected from? What's out there on the street? Same thing we do for our business every day. We have to have, government should have that availability at the touch of your finger to be able to get this.
That's very promising, because one of the issues that always comes up is that there's a lack of data. How do we plan? How do we budget? How do we do? How do we make the future come in the way that we want it to if we don't even know what's happening in the present?
Well, in a paper environment, your choice is to rifle through a lot of paper and hire somebody. Or in a digital environment, those tools are already standard in just about any application.
Not only is it collected, but it can be analyzed, it can be digitally consolidated and so on, so that you have data right at your fingertips, which is very important.
But you had a question.
Yeah, no, actually, what I was getting at is that there are 7 general themes that we're looking at, and one of them has to do with the public infrastructure.
Yes.
I think that is where we're talking about the GWAN, the wide area network.
We call it GovNet, yes.
The GovNet. So you're saying that is 75?
About 70%
70% connected.
Yes. Every day we have people running wires, so it's something we're working on.
So then my question to that is, what is the timeline that we're looking at before we reach the 100? Are we looking 2, 3, 4 years, or is it hard to say?
It depends, because there's some technical difficulties in terms of location of ministries, in terms of availability of fiber within the area.
Okay.
So I don't think we'll ever get to 100%.
So it's issues that are outside the control of government to an extent.
I don't think we'll ever get to 100%. There will always be remote areas.
Okay.
But there's a couple of big ministries that will come on this year. You know, we're pushing to get immigration now that they're in their new building, which is right across the street from CITO. We should be getting them on fairly soon. Okay. Lands is actually not on the network yet, but we're working to get them on as well.
By tomorrow.
And you know, there's resistance, because you have these IT officers within each ministries that we have to liaise with, and you know, each ministry is managed by its own statute, that we don't have the authority to just walk in and tell them to do things, so we have to work through that as well.
Well, let's take a pause right there, because we're seeing that we're at the 7:30 minute. So we'll take that second break, and then we'll see you right here in the third segment of Business Perspective.